All right, welcome to The Explainer. So, have you ever found yourself completely drawn to someone? Even when, on paper, it makes zero sense? Today, we are digging into the science of attraction to figure out what it is we really want in a partner. And, trust me, the answer involves a pretty intense battle between your ancient brain, your conscious mind, and a hidden blueprint you didn't even know you had. Yeah, we've all heard this, right? Or something like it. It's this idea that attraction is just raw, this primal force that totally ignores your checklist of good qualities. It's like it plays by its own rules, and logic has absolutely nothing to do with it. But what if that's not the whole story? What if that initial spark, or the lack of one, isn't the end of it? Because the science here is pretty surprising. It turns out our brains are basically running a few different attraction programs all at the same time. Okay, so to get a handle on this, we've got to go back, like way, way back. Our whole journey into what makes us tick romantically, well, it starts with our deep evolutionary programming. And where does this story start? You're gonna love this. With fruit flies. I know it sounds weird, but a study way back in 1948 on these tiny insects actually gave us one of the first huge clues about the rules of mating across the animal kingdom. So that study led to something called Beekman's principle. And here's the gist of it. Think about the biological investment. For females, producing eggs and carrying offspring is a massive deal, right? A huge investment of energy. Because of that, they've got more to lose from a bad choice, so they naturally become super selective. But for males, who typically invest less biologically, the game is different. Their reproductive success often comes from mating with as many partners as possible, which, you guessed it, leads to a ton of competition. And that fundamental difference right there, that became our evolutionary blueprint for attraction. Over thousands and thousands of generations, these pressures for survival and reproduction literally sculpted what we find desirable. So what does that look like for us humans? Well, a massive study across 37 different cultures found that these patterns are incredibly consistent. Look at this. Sure, everybody wants mutual love and attraction. That's number one across the board. But then you see those evolutionary pressures kick in. Men pretty consistently prioritized youth and physical attractiveness, which are strong biological signals of fertility. And women, with that bigger biological investment, they prioritize things like a partner's dependable character, emotional stability, and their earning potential. All things that are crucial for successfully raising a family. Okay, but here's where the plot thickens. That evolutionary compass, it's not the only thing guiding us. In fact, there is often a massive gap between what we say we want and the people we actually fall for. To really dig into this gap, a huge recent study looked at, get this, over 10,000 people. We're talking 43 different countries. It's one of the biggest studies ever done on what we look for in a partner. And the clever part is, they didn't just ask people to fill out a survey of what they wanted. No, they compared those stated ideals to the actual romantic choices people were making. And the results? They were pretty shocking. Just look at this chart. It lays out the biggest finding perfectly. Both men and women wildly underestimated how much physical attractiveness actually mattered to them. But check out the difference. For women, the gap between what they said and what they did was more than double that of men. What does that tell us? Well, it suggests there's probably a really strong social pressure to downplay how much looks matter, even when our brains are hardwired to notice. And then the script totally flips when you look at earning potential. Here, women actually overestimated how important it was to them compared to their real choices. It really seems like what we're told we should want, by society, has a huge influence on our conscious preferences. And it creates this major disconnect with our actual desires. So clearly, we're not that great at knowing what we really want, or at least, we're not great at admitting it. So if it's not just evolution, and it's clearly not just what we say we want, what is the missing piece of the puzzle here? This mismatch proves there has to be a third, deeper force at play, one that can sometimes override everything else. And that missing piece, well, it's not found in our ancient past, but in our personal past. The answer is hiding in our earliest relationships. This brings us to something called attachment theory. The basic idea, pioneered by a psychologist named John Bowlby, is that the emotional bond you form with your primary caregivers as a baby literally creates a template for all of your future intimate relationships. Yeah, you can think of it like a blueprint for love that's stored deep in your subconscious. It's this internal map forged in your earliest years that tells you what to expect from intimacy, how to feel safe, and what emotional support is supposed to look and feel like. So from these early bonds, we each develop one of 4 main attachment styles. If you had consistently caring parents, you might be secure, totally comfortable with closeness. If care was inconsistent, you might develop an anxious style, where you crave intimacy but are terrified of being abandoned. If your needs were often dismissed, you might become avoidant and see closeness as a threat to your independence. And then there's disorganized, which is a confusing mix of wanting to be close but also being scared of it. These aren't just personality types, they are our fundamental strategies for how we do relationships.
And this is the missing piece. This is what explains that huge gap between what we say we want and who we choose. We are so powerfully drawn to people who fit our personal blueprint. Our subconscious is always looking for what feels familiar, even if that familiar feeling is painful or unhealthy. This drive for emotional familiarity is so strong, it can easily make us choose someone who ticks none of our conscious boxes for looks or status.
All right, so now we can finally put it all together. When you combine our evolutionary wiring, our conscious checklists, and this hidden relationship blueprint, you get a much, much more complete map of human attraction.
See, attraction isn't just one thing. It's not a switch that's either on or off. It's this dynamic dance between these 3 different layers. You've got your ancient biology pushing for survival, your conscious mind looking for that perfect partner on paper, and your subconscious heart just searching for a feeling that feels like home. And sometimes these 3 parts are in perfect harmony, and other times they're pulling you in completely different directions.
And you know, this isn't just some interesting theory. Understanding this map has huge real-world implications. In fact, modern couples therapies like emotionally focused therapy are built on this very idea. They help people figure out their attachment blueprints so they can understand the real root of their conflicts and consciously build the secure, loving bonds they actually crave. Which leaves us with one final big question for you. Knowing all this, knowing that attraction is working on all these different levels, who are you really attracted to? If you look past the primal instincts and you look past the social checklists, what does your own personal blueprint say about what you're truly searching for? The answer might just surprise you.